Hey everyone, welcome Zach Brittle to the show. Zach, I'm so excited to have you on here.
Thanks. Yeah. How you doing? You seem like you're living out of a suitcase right now.
Yeah, totally living out of the suitcase. That's the story of my life. And we're just like doing the best you can, adapting,
totally.
shifting, making it all work. But the show must go on. So here we are, hotel room and all. Headphones, hotel room, everything. We have talked a lot about relationships on this podcast. We've had several conversations, and it always fascinates me because every time we have a new guest, and whether we're talking about sex, marriage, dating, divorce, how to make it work, how do you know when it's over, how do you please your partner, anything, there are always emails and DMs that come in and people are like, it was that message. That one spoke to me. And I'm like, that's crazy because we've talked about this before. So we never know what's going to come out of your mouth that's going to hit someone, like just smack them in the head. And they're going to be like, light bulb. So I'm always telling people, like, you never know what episode's going to be life-changing for you. Okay, so I got to get all your titles right. So you've been counseling couples for almost 20 years. You're a licensed mental health counselor, a certified Gottman therapist, and a relational life therapist. And you've been married for what? Was it 28 years?
We have 29 this summer. And the line in my bio that's gotten me more business than any other line in my bio is that Rebecca and I have been happily married for 26 out of 29 years. So most of what I know about how relationships work, I've learned on the job. I've learned with and through my relationship with her. And then also my two daughters who are 19 and 23, I call them they're adulting, or they're trying to anyway. And, I've got a lot of training and I've got a lot of tools and I've got a lot of experience, but most of what I have is practice.
Yeah. I can feel you on that. Like, I feel like on my journey of what I do with health and relationships and coaching and everything, I've learned to become the coach that I am because of my own experience.
Yeah.
And what I have been through. So I feel you on that. And I think that's what makes the best therapist. I think that's what makes the best coaches, those that have that life experience and they know what they're talking about.
Well, sure. I mean, I'm just a fellow traveler, right? Like, I don't put on a costume and go to my therapy office. I wear, literally, I just wear like my regular clothes all the time. And some people put on a business suit, some people put on a uniform and they transform into the thing that they do. And then they clock out of that thing. And I do try to leave my work at work, but I'm never clocking out of the need to, practice relationship skills in a meaningful way. So that's the way I think about it.
Yeah. As I'm sitting here in my gym clothes.
Right on. Sure.
Recording my podcast.
Yeah. I'm going to the gym after this, so I'm with you. I'm not quite as accomplished, I think, as you, or I don't really even know what I'm doing, but I do have.
You're going though. You're doing it.
I'm going. Yeah.
You're doing it. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to know, like, why is this what you do? Why do you counsel? Why do you help with relationships? I'm always curious of how people started on their journey with what they're good at.
I'm a really good teacher. I'm a really good friend, and I have this aptitude for connecting dots that I don't know, just kind of makes sense to me. And so I went to college. I went to undergrad to become a teacher. And I right out of college, I was a teacher right away. I went into one of these, environments where I was kind of the savior. I was going to go be like the teacher who came in and rescued the entire system from being broken. And I knew a lot about how to like read and write. I was an English teacher, but I found out pretty quickly that I didn't know how to talk to people, or manage relationships. And so I went back to school to get a degree in counseling, which I thought I was going to use to go back into the classroom. Turned out I had an aptitude for therapy. I was good at it. And I was asked by my program to stick around and do some graduate assistant work, which I did. And I hated. I was doing work one-on-one with students. And then one of my students brought his wife in. And as soon as he brought his wife in, I immediately was like, oh, I like this. Like I can do this. This was interesting. And I wasn't sure exactly why, but something energetically woke up in me. 20 years later, I feel really, really grateful. I'm in exactly the right job for me. I am good at what I do. And I also think that like I probably would have been divorced couple times over if I weren't in this space. Like I'm vulnerable to a lot of relational breakdowns because of my story and because of my just wiring, that if I
Mhm.
weren't attentive to it, I could easily have fallen prey to a lot of what I see my clients falling prey to. So,
Yeah.
part of why I stay in this job is because I feel like if I don't, I'm gonna, I don't know, maybe fall off the wagon is the right term. I'm not sure if that's exactly right, but I like what I do. I'm never bored. I feel like couples therapy is a different thing than individual therapy. I feel like they're just different disciplines, and I don't really. I don't really like to say this, but I don't really trust people who are like, I do individuals and couples and adolescents and families, and I do depression and I do eating disorders. Like, I think people need to do a thing,
Yeah.
and this is the thing that I do. I do couples therapy, and I don't do individual therapy. I'm not very good at it. I barely can handle it as a client. I've been in therapy for 7 years with my therapist, who I love, but I can't do what she does. So I just wake up every day and I try to put on put on my clothes and go to work and then come home and stay in the practice, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you admit that though, that you're like, this is my wheelhouse. This is
Yeah.
my lane. That
I
is
mean, there
not
are
my
things I
lane.
can't do for sure. And
Mhm.
I always outsource. I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And I think to your expertise, that there are all kinds of trainers. Like, there are trainers all over the place. And the person who might be a really great CrossFit trainer might be a terrible yoga teacher. And a terrible yoga teacher or a great yoga teacher might not have anything to
Yep.
know about how to do, whatever else.
Right.
This is not my language, but I think you can be good at caring about values and health, for example, and still be specialized in a way that
Yeah.
makes you excellent in a different area. So
No, I tell people all the time, like, because you'll see people that teach classes and they might be really good at teaching classes. And then they come out and they train on the floor and train one on one. And I'm like, just because you can teach a group full of
yeah,
people, it does not mean that you are good at personal training. And that doesn't
yeah,
mean that you know what you're doing. Or vice versa. Just because you're a trainer, it doesn't
yeah,
mean you can go into a group and you know how to watch 10 people form, technique,
yeah.
tempo. It
My gym has
that drives me
both
crazy.
classes and personal training, and you can definitely tell that there are trainers who are dialing in. Like, there's folks that are really good on one side of the room and not so good on the other side of the room, and
Hmm.
I'm really grateful for the particular gym that I'm at because they're wise to that. They get it, and
Yeah.
people are playing to their strengths, which is really cool.
Hmm. No, I love that you're admitting that and talking about that. And I hope people are listening and it wakes them up to like,
Yeah,
ooh, this is what my therapist does. Maybe I should ask them a question about this. Or
yeah,
I felt something was off and I don't feel like, my cup is getting full by what I need in therapy. Maybe this has something to do with it. Like, I just hope it brings awareness,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, to do to that. Do you think people should be in couples therapy if they're married?
Here's what I say all the time. I don't think therapy works. I think couples work, or they don't. And
Hmm.
sometimes therapy is the tool that they use to do that work. Sometimes it's a small group at their church. Sometimes it's a 12-step program. Sometimes it's a book that they found or a podcast that they listen to. Sometimes it's just their relationship with their neighbors. I think therapy is a very specific kind of tool that is time consuming and expensive. So if you have the resources to do it, then I mean, I was about to say it can't hurt. It can hurt. You want to be with a competent therapist.
Yeah.
The other thing about therapy, couples therapy, is that, I say about my office all the time, it's different based on who's in the room. Sometimes my office is a courtroom. Sometimes it's a classroom.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's a yoga studio. Sometimes it's a playground. Sometimes it's it just depends on what the couple needs. And I think the
Right.
reason I'm good at my job is because I don't think about couples therapy in a very narrow way. I think about it in an expansive way. And I'm really keen to understand what the client wants and then see if we can help them get it. And if they can get it for free from a podcast, I'll say, get it for free from a podcast. Don't waste your time and money in here. But at the same time, if they come in, people say, how long does it take? And I'm like, I don't know. I love using gym metaphors, so I'm going to beat it to death. But it's like
Please do.
walking to a gym and having somebody say, and saying to the trainer, "How long until I can bench press my body weight?" And that the answer is dependent. How close are you? How hard are you going to work outside the gym? What's your diet like?
Exactly.
Do you have a congenital arthritis that's going to make that impossible? Like, that we need to figure that out first before we can actually decide whether or not this is the right venue for support. But I think I
That's
mean, the thing I say about my clients that I love and I respect is the only thing that my clients have in common is that they're asking for help. And that's a
yeah.
valuable thing to do.
I find it interesting that you hear the same things as like I hear of like, well, how long is this going to take
Yeah.
to, to heal from, or like there
Yeah.
was an affair, or whatever they're dealing with. And it's true. It's like, how willing are you to put in the work? Like,
Yeah.
and are you
Yeah.
both going to do it? I had this question for you later, but I feel like it's important to bring up now just because we're
Sure.
on this. Like,
Yeah.
I see this all the time. And I work individual with people. Sometimes I work with the husband, sometimes I work with the wife, and they're on this journey, right? And my job with them is that person, their journey, their health,
Hmm.
their wellness. And then I have to take the environment into consideration, right? Like,
Hmm.
is someone still bringing home beer and pizza? And are they supporting them? Like, I have to consider the environment and everything. And what I see happening all the time is this person is on their grind. They're going, they're changing, they're reading the books, they're doing the work, they're
Yep.
physically moving their body, which changes all the chemicals in their brain. They're
Yep.
feeling better. They're sleeping great. They have a great sex drive now, and their partner is not doing the same thing. And this person is like, hey, join me, or like, this is what I'm doing. And they're sharing, they want them to, but this person is just like, it's not for me, or what I keep hearing is they say they will. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great idea. Like maybe I will start or whatever. And it's starting to eat that person alive of
The
like,
first person.
yes, the person
Yeah.
doing the work, because the more they get into shape, the more they're bettering themselves. They're watching their self-talk. They're watching their energy. They're aware of it, and just, alone, just the benefit of sleep and the chemicals and endorphins that you get is going to change a person,
Yeah.
and they're becoming more and more aware of what the other person is not doing.
Yeah.
What would you suggest or recommend to that person that's like, I love them, but I am so aware of their depression now, and them saying
Yeah.
that they will and then they don't, and they're like, that's
Yeah.
not attractive, and like, but I
Yeah.
don't want to halt my journey and shrink
Yeah.
because they're not, and it's just this battle that I am seeing more and more show up, and I see it with men getting frustrated with the woman, and I see it with the women, and they're getting frustrated with the man in their life. I'm gonna stop
Yeah.
talking now.
I have an answer that might be controversial.
Please,
I'm not really sure.
give it to me. I love the controversial.
I think
Give
you
it to
leave them
me.
behind.
I know. I know.
Yeah. I think you say, okay, well, I'm going to continue to do the thing that's good and right for me. And I'm going to continue to live into my health and my wellness and if you can come, I would love that. I would love for you to come. Please come. I will make space for you. You are welcome anytime to be here, but I'm not coming over there. I'm not
Oh
doing your
yeah.
thing anymore. And that is hard for sometimes people to hear. And I think if you can do it in a loving and kind and invitational way, that's best.
Hmm.
But, you can't, um, I think healthy relationships in general require two functional adults. You have to have two adults at the table and two people who are investing in their own health and wellness. And if one of them's doing it and the other one's not, one of my mentors, and it's the relational life therapy guy, his name is Terry Real, who, if you don't know his name, he will talk about how, like, if you show up at your best and your partner shows up at your best, that's a great day for you. It's a great day for them. And it's a great day for the relationship. If you show up at your worst and they show up at their worst, it's a bad day for you. It's a bad day for them. It's a bad day for the relationship. But if you show up at your best and they don't show up at their best, it's a good day for you. It's a bad day for them. And it's an okay day for the relationship. And
Mm,
sometimes, okay is the best you're going to get, which is unfortunate, but it is, it is the math. It is the
right.
reality. You have to kind of grapple with reality. And if okay is not enough for you, either you require or, solicit the change that you need, or you leave.
I'm gonna be one of my clients. Okay.
Yeah. That's fine. I'll do it.
But Zach, I don't want to end my marriage though. I can just hear like
Okay.
10 people right now. But Zach, like,
Yeah.
but I love him and I don't want to be divorced and we have kids. I'm still getting mad or I have, emotions or I'm still mad, but I'm afraid. What happens when I get to the point where I don't care anymore? Like I don't want to be divorced and I love him and we've been
Yeah.
together 15 years.
Yeah. I would say then lower your expectations.
I love you.
I mean, you can't have everything you want. I mean,
I
this is
know.
just the reality of it. Like, what do you really want? If you want to stay married, that's easy. Just don't get divorced, like, but if you want to stay married in a way that helps you live your best life, then you need to figure out what living your best life is. And then you need to invite your partner to join
Yeah.
you. And if they're not going to join you, then you have new decisions to make, which may
Decisions.
include settling. It might include leaving. It might include, it might include having an affair. It might include, just committing to the gym. It might include joining a book club. It might include traveling by yourself. It might include, who knows? But,
Right.
this is the math. And, if there's enough in the relationship to make it work for you, then you have to just kind of accept that there are going to also be trade-offs.
Hmm. Yeah. And that the physical part too
Yeah.
is really hard because this person is, they're losing weight. They're physically looking good. I mean, I have these
Yeah.
women that are like developing this muscle that they haven't
Yeah.
seen since they were 20,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
big fupa's going and they're like they just feel amazing and they can like bang out 10 push-ups and some of them are like getting to the level of pull-ups and they're just
Hmm.
literally physically getting stronger than their husband. And then
Yeah.
they're like, this
Yeah.
is becoming a problem.
Well, and I think this is there's lots of cultural and like historical realities that are in play here. Um, but the reality is that marriages and families are systems, and systems orient around their patterns. And those patterns become consistent, they become ingrained,
Yeah.
they become predictable, they work. And then somebody changes the pattern. Somebody goes, "Oh, I'm going to change the system." And then the system freaks out a little bit. If you think about like a mobile that's floating over top of a baby's crib or something, and all these pieces are moving, and if you grab one and you just hold it, you stop it. The other pieces freak out. They all kind of go berserk for a little while until they find
Yeah.
their equilibrium. And sometimes when a woman or a man decides, I'm going to change the system, I'm going to change, I'm going to get healthy, I'm going to stop moving in this pattern, it does create some chaos, and people need to adapt to that system. If the person stays true to their change, if they stay true to not participating, if they compromise or they back down, which is what a lot of times happens. You've seen many people start the process and then bail
Yeah.
because the system didn't accommodate and they went back to the old system. But if you're really interested in changing the system, you got to stay on the path and then hope that the system conforms. And I think that that's not strictly hope, right? You can encourage and solicit and hope, and not hope. I don't want to use that word again, but you can invite them to participate. But if they're not going to accept it, there's not too much you can do about it because, I mean, you can't force somebody to do push-ups. You know?
No. Nope. I can relate to this because I was married for 17 years. Everyone on the show knows this. I bring it up. And I could see the changes happening. I've been divorced now for, I don't know, 6 years, I think. And I was just growing and changing so much before that point. I started my own therapy. I was really diving into like childhood issues that were like showing up now and still creating problems and I had this growth expansion and that's when I really started to like train hard and on purpose, and lifting and just feeling better. I was done having babies and I'm like, I got to get back to me. I got to figure out who I am.
Yeah,
And I disrupted the system
yeah,
and I would be like, let's go to couples therapy. Let's start like a journal, which I want to know you wrote like a marriage, what was it called?
hmm
The happy
marriage therapy
marriage
journal.
therapy journal. Yeah, I want to know about that. And I was like, let's start a journal and like, share them and exchange and just things like that. And it was just like dragging this
Mhm.
horse to the water, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
"Drink.
Yeah.
Just drink, damn it." And I'd got to a point where I realized, like, nothing is ever gonna change, and I got to that point, and it wasn't with, like, health and fitness, he was very in shape and stuff, it was, like,
Yeah.
the mindset and other things, so I can relate to what you're saying, and I had to come to the realization that, like, I am going, and I'm not stopping, and I'm positive, and I see things, and will
Yeah.
never he will
Yeah.
never get to the level I'm at or be willing to, and then I'm
And
like,
there's the
"But I'm"
math,
it was the math, and I was like, "But am I
you know?
sure? Like, am I fucking this up? Like, am I making the biggest mistake of my life for me and my children?" And now I can honestly say, looking back, like, that was the best choice of my
Yeah.
life. He got married very quickly after. I'm not remarried,
Yeah.
and I see and I hear he is the same person, and that's fine. That
Yeah.
works for him, that works for
Yeah.
their new marriage and stuff, but I was like, "Wow, I really have
Yeah.
seen that I did make the right choice."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that happens. I mean, I think the other thing we need to be like really like transparent about is that, we're talking perhaps about fitness, and that's fine. That's good. People should be
Mhm,
physically fit.
mhm,
It's not the it's not the variable in a relationship, right? Like the partner may be on the other side of the equation going, all she ever does is go to the gym and she's neglected da 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 and she's da 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 da, and here I am trying to
right,
like have intellectual conversation, and here I am trying to be, spiritually relevant or whatever it is. Like I don't want to sit here and say, it's all about getting your shit together and moving it. I mean, people do have value different things for different reasons in different ways.
right.
And that conversation needs to be available and stewarded by two functional adults. And if they come to the equation and go, yeah, it seems like this particular version of our marriage has run its course. Rebecca and we've done that 3 times. And each time we've chosen to re up, kind of renegotiate terms and renew. We
Mm,
don't regret that, but we're different. This is our fourth marriage that we're in right now. It just happens to be to each other, you know?
interesting.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting way of, like, thinking about that. I Someone once told me, like, they're like, "You know what I think? I think everyone should have to renew their marriage certificate or license or whatever it's called every 5 years or 10 years." And I was like,
Yeah. For me, it's three. What if I give hyper practical advice, particularly to people who are thinking about getting married,
"Uh-huh,
like hyper practical, literally, this is the one thing I tell couples. I go, I think you should find a marriage therapist or find a couples therapist. The same way you should have a financial advisor and a dentist an auto mechanic. And you should commit to, about 6 weeks of therapy every 3 years. And just as a way of staying the course, because people do change about every 3 years. About every 3 years, we kind of sit down and consciously, this is anthropology and psychology. It's not, I'm not making this up, but we
right,
do about every 3 years, we hit this like, I wonder if this is what I'm still doing. And if you think about it, uh, people nod their head when I say this. You meet somebody, and about 3 years later, you get married. And about 3 years later, you have a baby. And
mhm,
about 3 years later, you have another baby. And about 18 years later, your babies leave. Like there is this sort of relatively predictable cycle that if you steward it well, you're going to stay ahead of the curve. If you don't steward it well, you're going to wake up one day and go, who is this person that I'm sleeping next to? You know,
yeah,
are we just roommates? How did that happen? You know, Well, it happened because you didn't, put your flag in the ground every once in a while and say, are we still on track? We're still doing the thing?
right,
We still good? Do we want to shift? We want to make physical fitness a priority over the next 3 years? You know, what are
mhm,
we going to do now that our baby is no longer on suicide watch trying to throw themselves down staircases? Like, are we going to, you know, actually live our life? We're going to hire a babysitter now? Like people, when they
right.
don't do that, then things pile up and they atrophy. And that's, you don't, again, fitness, right? You don't use your muscles, they die.
Why do you think people don't talk about this? Like,
They don't know
w
how.
where was the person, and nothing against religion or anything, but I was
Yeah.
Catholic, brought up very Catholic, so
Yeah.
I was to get married in the Catholic Church by a priest,
Yeah.
by a
Yeah.
man that was
Yeah.
never married or in a
Yeah.
relationship with a woman, and guess who
Yeah.
gave us our counseling?
Yeah. That guy.
And then we did have to go to, like, these classes, and we met with, like, an older couple, you
Pre-Cana,
know.
right? It was called Pre-Cana.
Yes, and I'll never forget the couple, and my husband at the time was such a dick to them, and that should have been a red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, what is happening here? But no one guided me. The best thing that happened, I think, was my mom. God bless her. And my parents' relationship was no example at all. But
Yeah.
she got me this book, and it was like the top 25 questions to ask your partner before you become a
Yeah.
bride or something.
Okay.
And I only got through maybe the first chapter, and then he wouldn't participate anymore. Again, red flag. Hello.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm just like hearing you talk, and I'm like, no one tells us this. No one tells us
Yeah.
about the 3 years. And no one certainly said, get a therapist, like get
Yeah.
into that, like do the work, like stay on course. Why, Zach? Like that's so
I just think, I mean,
unfair.
because patriarchy is real, and because, the Catholic Church and every other system in the world is based on power and strength and winning and losing. And, it's not based on being relationally relevant, or relationally connected.
Mm,
And, when we are invited into relationships, we accept a general, like, kind of pattern of rules that seem to make sense because they've made sense for hundreds of years or thousands of years. And nobody's challenging those. And I think that started to change in the 70s when women's liberation happened, and they started to kind of go, hey, I think I want more out
yeah.
of life. But they were in relationship with men who were raised by these other guys who had never had a conversation. I mean, so it's changing. I think it's changing, particularly because women are not interested in settling anymore for the system. I've got two daughters who are offended by me because I raised them to be emotionally intelligent, and none of their 19 to 23-year-old men in their lives have any capacity for actual conversation.
I know.
And so they're mad at me, but I'm like, trust me, you're better off,
Yes.
because you're not going to end up in this situation where they just settle for the red flags early on. I mean, my kids would both reject the stories that you just told me. They'd be like,
Same.
nope, you know, so it's
Same.
changing. I think there's hope, but,
Yeah.
we've been under the weight of these sort of systems forever. And I'm having to repent. Like, I'm repenting of that. Like, I have to acknowledge that I participated in that for the longest time. It's probably why my marriage fell apart or nearly fell apart a few times. Um, so I don't know. I think we just don't have any practice,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
And I gotta say, like, I love that your marriage has fallen apart because
Thanks.
you are
Me
the
too.
one that I would go to and be like,
Yeah.
he knows, like he's been there. He understands
Yeah.
what it's like and has gotten himself out. But I put up this
Yeah. My
reel.
wife's more impressive. Like, she's actually more, the fact that she's married to a relationship expert, that she also has seen flail relationally. She's very keen to appreciate the kind of the work that is involved. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate in that way.
Yeah. I get it. To kind of go back just for a second of like your daughters and how where they are and emotionally and emotional intelligence, how important that is. That is one thing. Like when my life imploded, my girls had to watch me fall apart and then
Yep.
rebuild
Yep.
and learn. And then I've dated a couple men since then, and they have watched me fall apart from that and learn like that is acceptable, that is not acceptable, this is not
Hmm.
okay, and grow and heal from that. But I do know now that they will never accept the shit that I have
Yeah.
accepted and had to learn from. I
Yeah.
put up a reel the other day, and I'm in a bathing suit, just standing there cooking, like in my
Yeah. I
bathing
saw it.
suit.
No, I saw it. If you
Oh,
make
you
your
know
own
what I'm
money and
talking
you can do
about?
your own thing, the only thing you need from a man is how the way he treats you. Yeah.
I'm so impressed right now that you
Yeah.
saw that.
Yeah. It's true though.
So everyone, it always, did you read any of the comments? Did you get in there and read some of the
No.
comments?
No,
Oh,
I don't have time for that. So, I mean, like, I literally do not have time for social media. I don't even do my own, but I was like trying to figure out like who you were and who I was talking to.
yeah. Like,
So
who is this chick?
I was into it. Yeah.
Uh, I put up in a bathing suit because one, it will grab more attention.
Sure.
It's just the way social media works and stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I want this message to be heard.
Yeah.
And two, it triggered so many people, not women, but just men.
Yeah.
and they took it as like, we don't need men.
Yeah.
You're on a social media platform that was designed by men and you're paid
Yeah.
by men. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no one said we don't men. I actually love men. I'm not a man hater at all. I'm
Yeah.
not like,
Yeah.
jaded, even though I could be. I love
Yeah.
men. I want
The
to
guy you
find
wanna
my
date is the
person.
guy who goes, "That's you know what? You're exactly right.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I
And
didn't phew. Yeah, thanks for raising the bar for me." Like, that's the guy you wanna date.
exactly. And they were just so triggered by that. And I'm like, you're missing the point. Is that like if
Totally.
we are emotionally aware and
We're
we
so
make
good
our
at
own
it.
money and we can
Yeah.
do all that, like, I don't need you, honey.
Yeah.
Now it's just based on how you treat me, which means how
Yeah.
you communicate with me. If
Yeah.
you're there for me, can you hold space for me? Whoo, does that piss
No, we're
people
we're
off?
we're like we're so good at missing the point. Like, but it's
Yes.
because we've been trained to believe that power and strength are the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing that and, it's hard to argue with that right now because we live in a world right now that has chosen to elevate power and strength over integrity and dignity and truth and respect. Like,
Yeah.
so it's hard to look around and make the argument, but you know it in your body,
You do.
you know?
Yeah. Your body will always tell you.
Yeah.
Okay, can I ask you about the Gottman theory and what
Yeah.
that exactly is? Because I know there's a lot of people that are like, I've heard of that,
Yeah.
but I no clue what that is and what makes it different.
Well, what I always say about the Gottman method is that it's kind of
Method. That was the right. Yes.
yeah, yeah. It's basically relationship 101. So John Gottman is he's kind of the world's most famous and respected couples researcher. He was not a guy with an opinion. He didn't seek out to like write a book on his theory. He wanted to figure out like what made relationships work and what made them break down. So he did all this research. He did longitudinal research of about 40 years worth, where he tracked couples over time, and he was able to observe like what did the couples who stay together have in common and what did the couples who were breaking up have in common, and basically kind of revealed that the couples who were divorcing and who were miserable, they did these things, and couples who stayed together, they did these other things. And I think you ought to take that in college. I think it ought to be like a psychology kind of required psychology
Seriously.
course, because it speaks to the value of emotional intelligence. It speaks to the value of personal responsibility. He wrote a book called Seven Principles for Making Marriage Work, which is a fine book. It's not a very good read. Like, he's not an author; he's a scientist.
Yeah.
But the content's valuable. I think you ought to have it as a resource. But it basically says, couples that stay together, there are seven principles. They're in three buckets. Um, just to make it really simple, the
Hmm.
first one is the quality of the friendship. Like, how strong is your day to day fundamental regard and respect for one another? And you can learn to build that up. That's a thing that you can build. And I think if you're checking in every 3 years, how's our friendship? How are we doing? How are we doing in this
Yeah.
space? That's the value of that kind of tracking, because early on, it's really easy to be friends. You're interesting and you're new, and we have all this energy to stay up late, and sex is amazing, and blah blah
Hmm.
blah. Like early, it comes real easy. But you get into the grind of having jobs and kids and mortgages, and your friendship can atrophy. So the first one is really about the quality of friendship. The second bucket is around how you manage difference or how you manage conflict. Um, and there are some specific principles about that help reframe kind of your relationship to conflict. One of the biggest pieces of the research is this idea that about 2/3 of any issues that a couple has are perpetual. They're never going to go away. Like, it's you're an introvert, you're an extrovert, you're messy, you're neat, you're a spender, you're a saver. That's never going to change. And people get into a lot of trouble because they try to solve unsolvable problems. And so there's just a different approach, which is to create empathy and compassion and temporary compromise, which you need to be an adult to learn how to do. Right? Like,
Yeah.
that's why I go back to it takes two functional adults.
Yeah.
And then the third bucket is really around, do we have a sense of alignment around mission, vision, and values? Are we
Mhm.
targeted at the same thing? Are we chasing goals and dreams together? So, the idea of how does a relationship work at its base level is, do we have a strong friendship? Can we manage conflict? And are we aligned to the same thing? And those are all skills that you can build. Um, I'm also certified in what's called relational life therapy. I've already mentioned that in Terry Reel's name. I think relational life therapy is more like 501. If Gottman is relationship 101, RLT is more like relationship 501.
Okay.
And what Terry likes to say is that, other methodologies will give you tools, and then we want to work with the part of you that doesn't use tools. So, there's a thing that the Gottman method said, which is do this stuff.
Okay.
And then there's a reality, which is sometimes you can't do that stuff because you've got childhood trauma, or you've got a trust breach, or
Mhm.
you've got ADHD, or you've got untreated alcoholism, or like there's lots of reasons why you can't do the thing. And so it's not good enough to say, go do the thing. If you do the thing, you'll be fine. You have to also address the part of the person that doesn't know how to do the thing. Their parents never taught them how to do the thing. They don't have any models for the thing. They're not medicated properly for their ADHD. They haven't done the work of grappling with their relationship with alcohol,
Mhm.
so it's a little bit of a graduate level approach to couples work, but I think everybody should be exposed to and familiar with basic principles of being in a sound relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can be started early on.
Yeah,
Again, like it should be taught
yeah,
in college. It really
yeah,
should.
yeah.
If not in high school and opening people up to
Or
this.
it should be taught to your children, like you should. Me and Rebecca, because of what we've weathered and what we've had to learn, we have been pushing down this idea of, exactly what you said in your bathing suit. What matters is how you are treated by this guy, and
Yeah.
these people. Even in your platonic friendships, same-sex platonic friendships, like what matters is whether or not you have the ability to navigate, difference in a responsible and respectful way. And that's always easier if your friendship's stronger. Uh,
Right.
and then don't join your life with somebody who doesn't share your values, which is why about every 3 years you got to be checking in and saying, hey, are we still interested in
Right.
adventure or wealth building or health or, whatever? Like if we're not, then we got to pay attention to that and course correct.
Right. Yeah. And kind of like, because what if you get to that point at that 3-year check-in and you're like, no,
Yeah. Well,
we don't like, and he's going, no, I don't agree with what you're saying.
yeah.
And this is
Well,
not
then
what
you're
I
not,
value.
well, then you're not, then you haven't been married for 35 years or 25 years or 15 years and trying to figure out whether or not there's too much sunk cost in this equation.
Yeah.
Like people don't get divorced because they're like, oh, now we're just going to wait till our kids leave. I'm like, okay, well, have fun, you know,
Right.
or, you know, be checking in regularly enough, consistently enough to know whether or not this thing is veering off course.
Yeah. God, I wish someone would have told me. I'm always curious, like how my story would have played out if someone
Yeah.
was like, "Make sure you're checking in and do this."
Yeah.
But all we can do now is just stop the cycle.
Well, and
You know,
live your best life. I mean, this is the life you have. It could have
right?
played out in a different way, but who knows? Who cares? Like, this is the life you have,
Exactly,
you know?
exactly. Who cares?
I think people always ask me all the time, like, what would you do differently? I'm like, I'm not sure I would do anything differently. Number one is because I'm really happy with where I'm at right now in my family life. And number two, even if I had a time machine, I could go back and say, Zach, you should do this differently. I'm not sure I would have listened. If somebody just
Yeah.
dropped into your time machine, dropped into your life as you're about to get married and said, hey, listen, the Catholic Church doesn't really, it's not probably the right thing for you. You should probably not do that. You wouldn't have listened. You would have been like,
No.
well, but my family, well, but the da da da, well, but the so and so. So, it takes what it takes.
Yeah.
Time takes time. And so, again, all we can do right now is just do the best we can with what we have available. And
Hmm.
right now, for me, as much as I love working with my clients, it means making sure that my relationship with Rebecca and my kids is solid enough that I can hold my head up and, move through my days.
Right. I know you have experience with alcohol, and you're sober now, and it is It is constantly like, if I could say, like, what's someone asked me, like, what's one of the number one problems that you
Yeah.
see that impact
Yeah.
people's health and fitness journey, but
Yep.
then also relationships and other things going on? One of the top 3 would be alcohol.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
didn't get sober till I was ready. That's just the reality of that disease for me.
mm,
But looking back, I can tell you that anytime I went on like a personal, like wellness retreat, or I did something like, I don't know, like a 3-day centering something, whatever it might have
mhm,
been. And they were like, what's something that's in the way of you being your best self? I can't tell you how many times I wrote down alcohol. If I would just quit drinking, I would be fine. I mean, for years, decades probably, I was like, if this was out of my life, I would be fine. But I didn't listen to myself. I mean, I didn't listen to myself. I
Why?
wasn't ready because I wasn't
Why
ready.
do you think?
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to hear it. Like I was too sure that it would cost too much to quit
Mm,
drinking. Like I was like, no, it would cost too much, and I mean, I don't regret how long it took me. It took me what it took, but I'm so grateful right now. I live in a ton of gratitude for not having alcohol in my life. Like people congratulate me on I think I'm 5.5 years, and they're like, congratulations. That doesn't mean anything to me. I have no pride about it. I have only gratitude. And,
mm,
so when people ask me about it, I just, and they say, how did you do it? I go, I don't know. I mean, I do know, I could tell you, but what I know is that I'm so glad that I'm not waking up hungover, that I'm not embarrassed. I'm not worried about what I'm going to say when I go out at night. My kids aren't, constantly fretting about whether or not they can trust me to drive or talk,
mm,
So
yeah.
like I just live in a different skin and I love it, you know. And to be honest, one of our 3 periods was when I was sober and Rebecca was not yet. And I said, hey, listen, this is me now. This is the path I'm on. You can come if you want, but I'm not coming back over there.
Mm,
And if you don't come, I'm going to leave you behind. Um, I'm not going to leave you. I'll stay married to you, but it's going to suck. And
yeah.
but, and she figured it out, I don't want to say she figured it out. When she was ready, she got on the wagon and that's where we live now.
Hmm.
So
It's, it, do you think it's possible for someone, based off your experience with alcohol, to have had a problem? It was a major problem, and then they got sober, and now every now and then they fall off the wagon, and like they have a drink here, and then a couple months pass, and then they drink, here. Like, is it possible to keep it in your life a little bit?
I don't think it's possible for me. I think it might be for some people. But I don't know. Um, my wife, I haven't relapsed one time since I put my last drink down. Rebecca's probably relapsed maybe half a dozen times, 6 or 7. Um, always for one night, always, so she doesn't fall off and then like go bingy crazy for months at a time or disappear at Las Vegas or something. But I can tell you that every single time she's like, nope, can't do it. Nope, not for me. So not for me, not for her, but maybe somebody can. And, alcoholism, alcohol dependency, alcohol abuse, they're all different and they all manifest differently for different people. And, who knows? Who knows what your diagnosis is? I don't think it really matters, you know? Um,
Hmm.
for me, it was preventing me from living my best life. And I don't have any interest in entered sometimes I'm like, a cocktail would sound really nice right
Sure.
now, but I don't have any confidence that I wouldn't just open my own floodgates because I have enough kind of OCD that I would be like, I don't know. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
a good idea for me. Yep.
Well, Zach, it's been amazing having you on. If there was one thing that you could leave our listeners, knowing kind of like the demographic and struggles that we've talked about on here, is there anything that comes to mind that you would like to leave them with?
I mean, I have a kind of a hip pocket answer to this question. Because people ask me like, what's the secret? And
Yeah.
I've basically boiled it down to 2 things. And then one I've said a couple times already, which is you got to be a grown up. You got to be a functional adult. You got to be emotionally intelligent and aware and attentive to your own shit so that you can show up in the relationship. That's important. And then from that position, the secret of a healthy relationship is pretty simple. You do more things that your partner likes and fewer things that they don't like.
Mm.
That's it. That's the whole thing. As an adult, you do more things that they like and fewer things that they don't like. And then you have a chance. The rest of it is just, whatever. You got to grapple with stress and you got to grapple with strain. But I
Yeah.
think the number one thing is to be a grown up. And the number two thing is to learn enough about what your partner likes and doesn't like that you can show up for them in the ways that are important.
Yeah. And imagine if they're doing that for you and you're
Yeah.
doing that for
If you're
them,
both
both
doing it,
cups.
you're cooking with gas. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zach, this has been great. Where can people follow you, find you? Give us it all, and we'll put it in the show notes too.
Yeah, no, the internet's easy. My name is Zach Brittle, so you can find me there. I've got a weekly podcast that comes out every week. It's called Marriage Therapy Radio.
Love
The
it.
format of that show is that I interview couples. So if you're just like, how do other couples do it? That's what I'm learning about every time. Like I just learn something new
Awesome.
every week. Um, and I'm on Substack. Substack is, it's called stuffIwrite.com. And that's the place that I do most of my thinking out loud.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, everyone, check out the show notes. Zach, this has been great. I hope we can have you on again and keep
Yeah.
this
I love it.
conversation going.
Anytime.
I
Yeah.
think this was fantastic.
Yeah.
Everyone, check out the show notes, read the books, grab them. We'll put the links to everything down there. Thank you again for coming on.
Right on.
Everyone, stay safe, stay healthy. Until next time. The Bottom Life podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The content shared here is not intended as medical, legal, or professional advice. Always consult with a qualified professional before making any health, fitness, financial, or legal decisions. The opinions shared on this podcast are personal experiences and insight. So if you need expert guidance, go find the right professional for you. Thanks for listening.